This is a double review of Castle Freak, both the 1995 and the 2020 versions. Castle Freak 1995 is another Stuart Gordon film loosely based on the works of H.P. Lovecraft, specifically The Outsider and The Rats in the Walls. There's a family with a blind daughter who inherit a castle. This is obviously where the Castle Freak lives, and horror ensues. This is a solid B movie, but don't go in expecting your usual insanity from Gordon like in Reanimator or From Beyond. This Castle Freak is stylistically shot and paced like the original 1930s Monster in a Castle type of films. I rewatched this one so I could compare it with the 2020 version, and I think even for 1995 it was too slow-paced. Too much time is spent on the family drama, but that's the way a lot of the early monster flicks were. A very slow burn until you get the real monster action in the second half of the film. Castle Freak 2020 is still loosely based on The Outsider and The Rats in the Walls, but also adds Lovecraft's story, The Dunwich Horror, into the mix. They've changed up the script. This time it's a blind girl and her boyfriend who spend the slower first half of the film moving around the castle. Then their friends show up, and most of the second half is your typical there's a killer stalking a bunch of young people type of film. And ironically enough, this feels like a film from the 90s, back when they started giving music video directors real films. There are some really good stylized scenes like a music video would look, but they either used a different camera for the various moving shots and focusing effects, or went too heavy on the after effects, because it is a really hard contrast when it cuts back to your standard film with more boring dialogue. The real difference, and the one that makes the 2020 version much better, is the added Dunwich Horror aspect. One of their friends, who they constantly call the Professor, is actually the protagonist from the Dunwich Horror story. And this guy ends up being the character you want the whole film to have been about, because he is well acted and plays your classic Lovecraft academic character, bringing all the knowledge about the Necronomicon and the great old ones with him. And the Castle Freak takes on the role of Wilbur Whately from Lovecraft's original story. And as teased in the preview, we do get the Dunwich Horror ending as opposed to some Hollywood cop-out ending, which as a Mythos fan will really put this one over the top for you. And there is one short clip during the end credits which teases a potential sequel and is a nice little homage to Stuart Gordon. I think he would have liked this remake of his work. Both movies have very different feels to them. But of course, all the cultists are going to really love the 2020 version. And it's way better than those other films like Underwater and Lovecraft Country that are just trying to ride the coattails of Lovecraft's resurgence in popularity. So be sure to subscribe for more horror, occult, and Lovecraft madness. Until next time, Cthulhu Fatagan.